All right, we're back with Joel Rosenberg, author of Epicenter, and we want to get that out to you, so make sure you call or write and ask for it. And thank you for your support when you do. Joel, we were talking about your second novel earlier in the hour, but then there was the Ezekiel option, which was your third novel, and there was, interestingly enough, each of the novels seem to be happening in real life after they come out, and so people just continue to get on the bandwagon and say, Joel, what's coming up next, and what are you going to write about?
Right.
But anyway, take us into your third novel, the Ezekiel option.
Well, the third is the Ezekiel option is the book I really set out to write, really based on this Ezekiel prophecy, Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39. So having set up sort of the preconditions for what I thought had to happen prior to the prophecy coming true, now I was sort of free to write, okay, what do you think is going to happen? So the novel begins with a dictator rising to power in Russia. Iran is feverishly trying to build, buy, or steal nuclear weapons. And then Russia, the Russian dictator and the Iranian dictator begin to form a military alliance, a nuclear alliance, with a group of other Middle Eastern countries to attack Israel in the last days. Now, a lot of things have come out of this book that have caused concern and curiosity. On page 358 of the Ezekiel option, one of my fictional Islamic characters says, we're going to wipe Israel off the map. 5 months after the Ezekiel option was published, the president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, said, we're going to wipe Israel off the map. Now you have to understand, Ron, that he wasn't the president of Iran when I wrote the book. I wrote it in 2004. Ahmadinejad was elected the president of Iran on June 24th, 2005, the very day the Ezekiel option was published. I was literally on a major American radio show, the Sean Hannity show, that night, and Sean was saying things like, all right, Joel, look, the first novel, that was weird that, things happened. Then the second one, okay, that got spooky, but now you're creeping me out. Don't ever write anything about me because it could come true, certainly if it's negative. And that's what began to happen. And now, of course, we've seen two other things happen. In Ahmadinejad, as we were saying earlier, Ahmadinejad isn't just a dictator in Iran. He has his own end times theology. He has his own Shiite Islamic eschatology, and he is telling people that the end of the world is just 2 or 3 years away.
I think that's so important to try to get into the mind of Ahmadinejad, because people hear him breathing threats and saying things, but where on earth is that coming from?
Right.
But you have an understanding of kind of his own end time theology.
Well, and this is interesting because Western leaders are saying, let's negotiate with Iran. Let's see what they want, see what they need. Okay, they don't agree with us, but let's try to negotiate something. Well, that would be wonderful until you understand what's driving Ahmadinejad is religion. And religion per se is not bad. Believing in the end times is not bad. I'm religious. I believe in the end times. I believe the Messiah is coming back, and I believe it should change the way I live. My difference with Ahmadinejad is not those things. My difference with him is that his end time theology tells him that he needs to kill tens of millions of Jews and Christians in Israel and in the West to destroy Judeo-Christian civilization in order to create the conditions of chaos and carnage into which his Messiah or Mahdi or the 12th Imam is supposed to emerge. Now think of the difference of that. A Shiite theology that says we need to kill tens of millions of people and make the rest bow down and worship Islam. That's how we bring our Messiah. That's the Muslim version. And then the Christian version is we're supposed to go and make disciples of all nations, giving them the free chance to accept the free gift of salvation through faith in Jesus Christ, and that they can be saved. Death versus life, forcing people to do something versus giving people an option. And this is two totally different worldviews. And for those who say, oh, Rosenberg, you're a nut. We don't want religious loonies like you speaking at the White House, as I have, or at the Pentagon, or in Capitol Hill. I say, look, I'm not in charge of a country that's trying to get nuclear weapons. That would be Mr. Ahmadinejad. The guy's building alliances with 3 nuclear powers, Russia, China, and Iran. Now, I wrote about that type of thing happening in the Ezekiel option. Honestly, I'm being perfectly candid with you, I thought those were going to be years off. But we are there now, and it's raising questions. And particularly, this relationship between Iran and Russia, which the Bible says will happen one day, that Russia will form an alliance with Persia, what we now call as Iran. And Iran had never happened in 2,500 years. Russians have always hated the Iranians and vice versa, but now we're at a spot in human history where Russia is selling billions of dollars worth of missiles, nuclear technology, submarines, and other high-tech armaments to Iran, a country that's threatening to wipe Judeo-Christian civilization off the map. Why? Why Russia and Iran? Why are they forming an alliance now? You know, it's not proof that this prophecy is going to come true any minute in the next few years, even in our lifetime. It's not proof. I don't think we can make that conclusion yet, but people are asking, what do you make of it? And I say, this has never happened before. We got to watch this thing very carefully.
I think that's important what you've said, that because some are saying, okay, Rosenberg is saying that this is going to happen like next week, next year or something, but you're saying that you're not that dogmatic as to the timing.
No.
But you think that the scenario, as the Bible has put it, will happen at some point.
Sure.
But talk as to the timing issue.
Well, this is the thing, and I say at the opening pages of Epicenter, I'm not trying to persuade people of this or that it's going to happen imminently, nothing like that. It's going to happen, I have no doubt. And one of the reasons I know it's going to happen is because Ezekiel 36 and 37, the two chapters that precede this whole war of Gog and Magog, they already have come true in our lifetime. These are the famous chapters that say that Israel will be reborn as a country in the last days, that Jews will pour back into the Holy Land after centuries of exile, that they will rebuild the ancient ruins, that they will make the deserts bloom, that they'll have an exceedingly great army. We are now at the 59th anniversary of the rebirth of Israel. The fact that Ahmadinejad can say we're going to wipe Israel off the map, people forget. For 2,000 years, there wasn't an Israel. The fact that it's come true today is proof that the Bible is coming true, because those two chapters say exactly what's going to happen, and they've happened in our lifetime. And my point is this: if Ezekiel 36 and 37 have come true in our lifetime, isn't it remotely possible that Ezekiel 38 and 39 will come true in our lifetime too? And I believe it is possible, and it does. The events seem to be converging to say the preconditions are being put into place. But at that point, I stop and I say we have to be cautious. Let's not try to overreach. Let's not try to pick out days and times and exact scenarios. Let's just think about what's happening, what the Bible says to happen is going to happen, and then think about what does that mean to me? What does that mean to your audience? Those who believe in Bible prophecy and those who don't. It's two different responses, but that's the question. So what? So what if the Bible tells us what's going to happen in the Middle East in the end of time? What does that matter to me as a Canadian, as an American?
And I like what you've said also before, is that a lot of people who teach Bible prophecy need to learn and use a simple phrase called "I don't know."
Yeah.
Because there is definite things that the Bible says that will happen, but as far as the timing and the exact scenarios, we don't know.
Right.
But when things start happening all together and seems to be escalating in a lot of the things coming together, it makes you stop and say, It makes you at least think and consider. And there are really two things to consider for those who are followers of Jesus already. Let's consider what we do with this time that God is given us as a gift remaining before Christ returns. He's given us a job to do, and are we doing that to the best? And for those who are maybe skeptical of the whole thing and they don't really know God or have a relationship with Jesus, it makes them stop and say, well, maybe I need to take a second look at the Bible, because there seems to be some truth there.
Right. No, I think those are the responses, and I think, and one of the things I try to do in the book Epicenter is walk people through both what the Bible says is going to happen, what is happening currently, and I have extensive interviews, exclusive interviews with Middle Eastern leaders, former documents from previously classified materials from the CIA, the White House, State Department, elsewhere. But also I kind of walk through a whole chapter on tracking the tremors, and what do you do about this as a believer in Jesus, as a follower of the Bible, or not? those responses are critical and those questions are important, and I try to walk people through my perspective on that, and more importantly, the biblical perspective in the book.
All right then, Joel, tomorrow we're going to start unpacking more then of what the Bible says and some of the comments that you've picked up over the last little while from leaders like former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and others that you have videotaped. So we'll maybe roll in some comments, but then also just see, well, what does the Bible say? And what are some of these countries mentioned in the Bible that I don't seem to find on the map today?
Right.
And so we'll look forward to more of that tomorrow, but we do want to get this copy of Epicenter into your hands. It's a thank you for your support of the ministry of Crossroads and 100 Huntley Street. And so make sure you call or write right away to get your copy.